Time now is 5 p.m. Today is Monday, February 21st, 2022, and I call to order the regular City Commission meeting for the City of Clewiston. Pastor Escortia, would you open us in prayer? If you would all stand, and we will be followed by the pledge to the flag.
God bless you all this evening. I'm Pastor Ben in behalf of the Ministerial Association. I have the privilege to lead this prayer. Heavenly Father, I come before you in the name of Jesus, thanking you for everything you give us, for the life, for the salvation, for the faith, for the talents, everything that you give us, oh Lord. And I ask you to guide all our elected officials. I ask you to guide all the leaders of this community. And I ask you to bless all distinguished personalities in this room. And I ask you, Lord, to give them the wisdom, O Lord, to make the right decisions for our community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would all remain standing for a moment, we would like to just take a moment to remember Gary Brandenburg, our city attorney. Dylan is on the phone with us. And Dylan, we just offer our deepest condolences to you and your family. Yes. If you would join me in a moment of silence.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Dylan, at a future time when you're here, we are going to honor your dad in the most befitting way. So we look forward to that.
Thank you so much. Gary worked with a lot of counties and municipalities over the year, and I don't want to say he ever played favorites, but I know that Clewiston had a very special place in his heart. And thank you so much for the condolences and for the support and everything.
Yes, sir. Mr. Martin, do we have any additions, deletions, changes?
No, ma'am.
I would ask for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve by Gardner, second by Pittman. At this time, we will allow public comments to anything related to the agenda or what's on anyone's heart. We're going to limit it to 3 minutes. We do have a long agenda again this evening. Pastor Scotia.
Something out of the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is an invitation for everybody in here and also all the community. I have spoken to some of the pastors in our town. We will hold a 40-day prayer, and we already have a church where we're going to do it. And at the last day, for the closing, the last day, we'd like to have a gather together of all the community, all the churches and all the community to be in one place, possibly at the John Boy Auditorium, which it will be on a Saturday night, possibly the day before Easter, which is Saturday the 16th of April. And everybody's invited because we know that we all need to pray. I mean, so many bad things are going on in our community, in our state, in our country, in the whole world. Too much violence, too much killing, too much immorality, so many things, and the only way we can solve that is praying to the one who has all the control for everything.
Amen.
So everybody's welcome.
And that's April 16th.
The 16th. Yeah.
Okay, and you'll post that on social media as the time gets closer?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have anyone else who wishes? Mr. Sherrill?
Look on, Cheryl. I don't need a lot of time, but I only have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
First thing I'd like to do is pay my respect to Mr. Brandenburg's family and everything. Real sorry to hear about that. The only other issue, I'd like to talk a little bit about these boats and all down there. It appears to me that Mr. Martin sees the state statutes different than what's written in black and white. As I see the state statutes, surveys, and other information in black and white, Mr. Martin appears to see them the way he wants to see them. It seems clear to me that state statute, survey, and information that is in black and white may not apply to Mr. Martin or Mr. Rudd. According to Mr. Martin, Mr. Rudd clearly does not own, this is a different paragraph, Mr. Rudd clearly does not own water rights. As Mr. Martin has told me numerous times that Mr. Rudd is responsible for my docking vessels, even though Mr. Rudd does not have water rights, according to the state statute, surveys, or any other information. As the docking vessels are clearly downstream from Mr. Rudd's property and well within the riparian land owned by the state, so it appears to me that Mr. Martin does not believe in the state statutes or surveys or any other information about this navigation channel or riparian land which is written in black and white. So it seems to me either Mr. Martin hasn't read it or he does not believe that it applies to him. I'm almost done. As it appears to me, if Mr. Martin wishes to try and take control of this navigation channel and riparian land within, then it seems that Mr. Martin and the city of Clewiston may also have to take the responsibility of it. So in the future, until this is resolved, if something happens to my dock or equipment, vessels, etc., the city of Clewiston and Mr. Rudd may be held responsible for my losses. And this is all concerning a violation that Mr. Rudd called code enforcement down there and dictated what he wanted her to write them violations on over and over and over. And there's a witness of this and everything. And but still, he does not own to the water. How can you write him a violation for my dock and vessels, which is clearly within riparian lands? And I asked Mr. Martin, I called him and asked him, I said, look, do a little research on Fish Eating Creek. I think it was Likes Brothers or whoever that fought it in court for years and years, spent millions of dollars, and they still couldn't change the riparian rights or the navigation channel part of it. And today, you can still navigate it, and you can even run an airboat, and in places, the riparian land goes as far as a half a mile outside the creek area because it's a low-lying area and everything, and they can't keep the people out of it. They can use it too or whatever, but they can't deny the public from it.
Thank you for your viewpoint, Mr. Sherrill. Do we have anyone else that wishes to address the commission? Moving on, at this time, we have a presentation of a proclamation. The City of Clewiston wishes to recognize Sugarcane Farmers Appreciation Week. And we have a proclamation that we're going to present to Judy Sanchez today. Judy is the Director of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for the United States Sugar Corporation. Judy, would you come up, please,
Mayor,
Mrs. Sanchez?
excuse me, you may want to do the consent agenda prior to
Sorry?
presenting.
Yes, thank you. See, I was in a hurry to.
Before you present.
Consent agenda. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Now we'll move forward. Come on. This proclamation is for Sugarcane Farmers Appreciation Week. Whereas Florida sugarcane farmers are the nation's largest raw and refined cane sugar producers and make Clewiston America's sweetest town. And whereas Florida sugarcane farmers are made up of men and women from every walk of life who, through their work ethic and love of community, are truly a mainstay to their agriculture regions and this great nation. And whereas Florida sugarcane farmers generate more than $3 billion in annual economic activity and are leaders in technology and environmental stewardship, taking good care of our land, air, and water resources in the state of Florida. And whereas Florida sugarcane farmers have partnered in Everglades restoration and reduced phosphorus, leaving their farms by an average of 55% annually for more than 2 decades, more than double than what is required of them. And whereas Florida sugarcane farmers provide approximately 50% of the sugarcane produced and 25% of all sugar produced in the United States. And whereas Florida sugarcane farmers have provided community gardens, daycare centers, playgrounds, libraries, civic and youth centers, swimming pools, scholarships, houses, and continually contribute to other civic improvements and community programs. And whereas the Sugar Festival has become a means to show community appreciation for Florida sugarcane farmers. Now, therefore, we, the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 14th through 20th, 2022, as Sugarcane Farmers Appreciation Week, and urge all citizens to express their appreciation to all aspects of our local sugarcane industry for the vital contributions it makes to the well-being of the state of Florida and the United States of America. In witness thereof, I have set my hand on this 21st day of February 2022. Ms. Sanchez, we just thank you very much for what you and your business, for our farmers and their families, the sacrifices they give during that farming season. We know that those need to be recognized also. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to turn around so we could get a picture. Why don't you come on up here? Come on up here. We'll put her up here. You're gonna have to scooch in like we like each other.
I'm not scared.
There we go. There you go.
1, 2, 3, cheese. Because it's an iPhone, we're gonna go sideways here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. This was a week for recognition of sugarcane farmers. John Stitt and Mr. John Huntley were recognized by the Florida Agricultural Hall of Fame, were inducted this week for recognition in their endeavors in the cultivation of sugarcane. Moving on, first item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-02. This is a final reading of a public hearing. Background on ordinance 2022-02. This amends Clewiston Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Vehicles for Hire, Article 2, Wrecker Service Rotation Services. At the December 20th, 21 Commission meeting, the City Commission considered the amendment and agreed to move forward with the preparation of an ordinance amendment. The City Commission approved the first reading of ordinance 2022-02 on January 24th, 2022, and set the public hearing for February 21st, 2022. Do we have any community input in relation to this? Hearing none, there is no financial impact, and the recommended motion is to approve ordinance 2022-02. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Thompson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Heislope. Do we have any commission discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Agenda item number 3, this is ordinance 2022-03. This is a final reading of a public hearing. Ordinance 2022-03 creates a new firefighters retirement system under Chapter 2, Article 4, the City of Clewiston Code of Ordinances. The ordinance creates a firefighter pension program whereby the city will receive state-collected taxes imposed on property and casualty insurance premiums, with which to fund this pension program for Clewiston firefighters. In exchange for the receipt of these funds, the legislature has established certain criteria under which the funds must be operated and managed. This ordinance will meet the minimum criteria adopted in Chapter 175 of the Florida statutes. The City Commission approved Ordinance 2021-04, which took effect October 1st, 2021, capturing the existing tax revenue levied in the amount of 1.85% of the gross amount of receipts on all premiums collected on property insurance within the city. The City Commission approved the first reading of ordinance on 2022-03 on January 24th of 2022 and set the public hearing for February 21st, 2022. Do we have any community input on this resolution? Financial impact is going to be $107,824. The recommended motion is to approve ordinance 2022-03. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Pittman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gardner. Do we have any commission discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Can somebody break down that financial impact, itemize it? What is it entail?
What is the 107,000?
We have an estimate from the consultant that was used for the actuarial analysis of at least $50,000. We won't know the actual revenue to be received until we receive it. But we believe that to be a conservative estimate based on comparisons to other units of government. The additional portion, whether it's 50 or some other number, we don't believe it will be any less than that, but at least that. The additional amount would be divided between the city and the county on the formula that we use for our annual budgeting process, which is based on the ILA formula that was created, which is based on a 5-year average of call volume. And it's currently about 60, 40, 60, 2/3 roughly this past year of the revenue comes from the county.
How about the contribution versus the payback? We talked about
Okay.
financing that over 30 years to pay back. Well, how much is this payback? How much is this contribution? How much is the city? How much is going to be paid by the 1.5%?
Well, the affected employees, which would be the firefighters, would pay 5% into the fund. And this would be the total cost to the city based on the current projected actuarial analysis, as I understand it.
Including the payback.
It includes that. And I'll be glad for Travis to comment, but that's my understanding from the consultant is this includes the total cost. So this would be roughly the annual budget appropriation. And the only thing that could really affect that is retirements or whatever. It would fluctuate somewhat year to year, but that would be the total cost.
And we're still talking about taking 30 years to.
That was the projection of the actuarial based on current numbers. Obviously, it will vary depending on salaries and cost and actual dollars going forward, but up to 30 years is what they believe that the cost to catch up, if you will, for the current firefighters who have several years of experience would be the most likely ones that impact on that calculation the most. Travis, you want to add anything to that?
Absolutely correct. So the cost that we're seeing today, the estimate was if we did not have to go back and pick up the past years of service, the out-of-pocket would be zero or near zero for the city and the county. But the statute is clear that you have to go back and pick up those years of service when you start this plan. And it's a 175 plan, which is just Florida statute 175. So that 107 is an estimate. It's a good faith estimate of what we think it will cost the city and the county, not just the city, but the city will pay their percentage, the county will pay their percentage. So that includes what we estimate, hopefully conservatively, the $50,000 that we're going to receive in those dollars that we'll receive from the state. So we think we're pretty conservative. Foster & Foster is the firm who did the actuarial analysis for us. They're well known. The League of Cities praised their work, and so they are well respected in their field. And the League of Cities looked at their projections and thought those were solid numbers that most likely we would receive more than that. But you always want to say, what's your worst case scenario to bring to the citizens, to bring to the board? And those are also based upon life expectancy. We've got to pick that up, but that changes, as you know, as folks retire. Some live longer, some live less, so that will fluctuate, but your cost should not exceed that. In good faith, they say that's will most likely be less year to year, but that is what they want you to consider. That's the number.
This catch-up, is there any interest involved with that, or are they just allowing us to?
Is my understanding it's just an actuarial analysis. There is no interest involved. That's just the expectation. Where it could get in is if for whatever reason in the early years you exceeded what's available in the fund, that might create a scenario where you would have some amount of interest, but I would think that would be fairly insignificant unless you had several people to retire in the very early years before you build up the fund.
And you said the employee contribution is 5%?
That's correct, 5%.
What's the employer's contribution?
It's just
This is the employer contribution.
what's left over after the state money is exhausted.
And again, that would be split 2/3 currently with the county. And we've discussed this with the county. I don't want to confuse the topic, but we have talked to the county. If there is a mechanism by which the county could capture more of this insurance proceeds for the areas outside the city, and we've researched it to some degree on our side, but the county's going to take an analysis or take a look at that to see if there's a mechanism that's acceptable to them where they might be able to capture more of those insurance proceeds for areas outside the city. As we understand it now, the county is not eligible to do that as an entity because they are in FRS, the Florida Retirement System, and that prohibits counties from being a participant in receiving these revenues. We have the option of doing FRS or this, setting up our own pension fund. We've selected our own pension fund for a number of reasons, primarily cost, keep the cost down, and other factors. But if there was a mechanism created, such as a future fire district or something that could capture those revenues, that might lower both our costs. But that's yet to be determined. So that'll be an effort the county will have to determine. The other piece I wanted to mention is we've talked about this internally. We've mentioned it, but just to reemphasize it, we're going to look carefully at the League of Cities being the managing entity for this or the advisory group for this going forward, and their costs are lower than what was factored into this projection by the third-party company that did it. They factored in a private sector alternative for managing it, which is a higher cost than the league. So I'd say it's highly likely we're going to recommend, unless something comes to our attention that would be a negative, having the League of Cities do this for us.
And this 107 is annually?
I'm sorry?
This 107 is annually?
Yeah, that's the first year projection. It'll be updated periodically, but that is
The split between catch-up and employer's contribution? What would this be with just the contribution?
just the contribution of the employees, or?
The employer's contribution towards the pension?
That's 100% of the employer contribution and the cost associated with managing the fund.
But the catch-up is in here also, correct?
Yes.
What's the split?
Almost 100% of it is for the catch-up. As Travis was saying, it's very minimal cost. Not 100%, but I'd say what is the annual cost to manage it?
The
The fees, yeah.
It was our first estimate from Foster, and Foster was just under 45,000, and the league to do it would be significantly less. Their first not official estimate would be somewhere in 17,000.
So looks like about 80.
Is Gloria going to handle this?
I'm sorry.
Is Gloria going to be handling this?
No,
No.
this will be a separate board that you set up that will handle this.
Yeah, there'll be a board created as outlined in the ordinance when we adopted that. But so it looks like it'd be about 80-20, 80% of it being catch up based on those numbers, somewhere in the 70 to 80%.
Well, I think I follow you. If there was no catch up, yeah, it would be very, very minimal from the cost of the, in my belief, the way we read the report, if we didn't have to go back and pick up the existing employees.
Yeah.
So this is,
Picking them up
But
is
the-
what
but the-
we have to play catch up.
So
But
this
the
is a-
insurance proceeds will pick up, we believe, close to half. So it wouldn't really be any local cost to catch up if you didn't have to catch up. It'd be
So
just
that
covered by the
this
fee.
this would be well over $3 million over 30 years to catch
I
up.
think they estimated 2, if I remember correctly. Because it amortizes down as you go forward.
And even in that, they said if we had a one-time contribution of $1 million, I don't think we're going to go out and solicit that somehow that would go in and would make our contribution zero. But I don't think that's realistic to ask someone to make that contribution.
We're just spreading it out over
We're
30
breaking
years.
it out.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, if
2
we had
million.
We are.
If we had someone to
Yeah.
offer that.
But
Take a
although there's a
one-time
lot
hit,
of variables, but 2 million is the estimated, and that would be amortized no longer than 30 years, we believe.
And just to be clear, this is the minimum plan. If you choose to do this, we've looked at it, we've researched it, the manager's researched it, we've talked to the state Division of Retirement. This is the minimum plan that you can put in place if you choose to do it. It is the same plan that the city of LaBelle uses, and they're currently very pleased with their plan.
Thank you, Travis.
Thanks, sir.
Anything else from the commission? No. We're still on ordinance 2020-203, firefighters retirement system. We have a motion by Pittman, second by Gardner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 4. This is ordinance 2022-04. This is a final reading of a public hearing. Ordinance 2022-04 amends section 110.525, home occupations of the city of Clewiston's Code of Ordinance to bring the city into compliance with House Bill 403, 2021, passed by the Florida legislature. The City Commission approved the first reading of ordinance number 2022-04 on January 24th of 22 and set the public hearing for February 21st, 2022. Do we have any community input? Hearing none, there is no financial impact. Recommended motion is to approve ordinance number 2022-04. Do I?
Some questions of the attorney.
Sure.
Okay.
Dylan?
Dylan, on page,
Commissioner.
yes, on page 2 of the ordinance, item D, 4D, it was completely erased from the new ordinance, and I was just curious about why, especially when there's concern about fluctuations in the line voltage from the premise. I just didn't know what
Alright.
that was struck.
I'm trying to get there.
It says uses any, and I'll read it to you. It was actually originally 7D. It says uses any which uses any equipment. No, I'm sorry. I'll go back. Shall not include any activity that uses any equipment which creates visual or audible interference in radio or television receiver signals off the premises or causes fluctuation in line voltage off the premises. I was just curious. Yeah, I was just curious why that was struck out.
Yeah, that was a part of our original ordinance, and as you know, and we kind of went over last time, this new statute the legislature has adopted is incredibly preemptive. And there's it basically says you can't regulate home-based businesses in any way other than what is iterated within the statute that they have passed. And the statute makes concessions for things like parking and things like excessive noise or alterations to the structure. It does not, however, make any kind of concessions for that's a little bit of a niche area for fluctuations in I guess signal. So just from a reading of the statute, it's not something that would be allowed to be regulated under the broad new statute that has been put in place.
So we're saying that a business could actually cause a fluctuation in our line voltage, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I mean, I think there would probably be room for regulation of the voltages in another area under the city ordinances, perhaps We could talk about implementing something under the code ordinances, code enforcement. But under home-based businesses, that would not be an appropriate regulation under this particular section or under this particular statute in this section of the ordinances. I think maybe we can talk about implementing something regulating that in a different area of moving forward. That would be something that would have to apply, should probably apply not just to home-based businesses, but to all businesses that are operating in the city. This ordinance here specifically relates to home-based businesses.
Okay. All right. And then I have another question on, it was deleted item 3 and then item 2 was put in its place. I'm just trying to figure out why the wording and why the changes there. Because it's basically saying the same thing, except that...
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's on the same page, page 2, at the top of the page.
Yeah.
Previously, number 3 was struck out, and then number 2 was put in as a replacement. And I was just wondering about the wording on that and why the change up.
Okay. Number 3 was crossed out into, 3 shall be carried on within his family. Okay, I see. Yeah, that was just including the text as it is written exactly in the state statute.
Okay.
Just about the parse language. There's no specific reason why. We just opted to go with the language as it was put out in the statute.
Okay, so number 2 is exactly from the statute, Florida statute.
Correct.
Okay. All right, well, those are the 2 questions I had. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
I would think on the electrical part of it, that in their drop to their house, they can do what they want. They can burn it up. But once it crosses off the premises, we supply this voltage, and if you mess it up, then we have to cut you off. I mean, so if we could maybe do something in the ordinance, and it kind of says that, it says off premises, or it did.
No, it did. They took it out completely. That was my concern.
And so maybe we could put
It would have to be something significant to drop.
I mean, I don't think we've had any issues, but I was just concerned
The
we
item
don't know
D
what might happen.
specifically speaks to audible interference in radio or television receiver signals. I would think that's different than our electric lines.
So I know
that is
Dylan
what
has
she's
recommended
talking
some stuff to look at, so.
Yeah, we can look at our utility regulations and see if there's a need to beef those up, or if there's something already that may cover such an occurrence.
And he's
don't
right,
know.
and not just residences, but it's also businesses.
And would have to apply to all customers, not just home occupations. I think that's the key to it.
Right. And Commissioner Pittman, I don't want you to think I forgot about you. I did take a look at the ordinance again regarding the retail issue. Unfortunately, I mean, it's pretty clear in the statute. It says the home-based business may not conduct retail transactions at a structure other than the residential dwelling. I mean, the statute, unfortunately, makes it pretty clear that it contemplates retail, at least within the residential dwelling. I don't think that. I think what we have here is the city's previous regulations. We have maintained it as best we can under the new framework.
Oh, I know that y'all have. I think it's kind of an idiotic statute that the state's putting on all the cities and counties, so we can all start selling bubble gum out our front door.
But you can't have a sign that says you're doing it.
Dylan, I do have one more question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
That's all.
I did look up the statute, and I know it went into effect, or it was approved October of 25th on 2021, but I also noticed that there were some changes on 2/16 of 2022. And I just want to make sure we're those changes, maybe, I don't know. I would hope that we looked at those and to see if there's any impact on what we're approving tonight.
I don't believe those are in effect yet.
Okay.
I don't think.
Well, this just came on 2/16.
Being considered in
right.
it. And I'm
Okay.
sure there'll be, I would dare say there'll be a lot of tweaks to this over the next year.
Any
There
revisions?
should,
so,
there should be.
Particularly that part that was discussed earlier that Commissioner Garner was asking about. The significance to me of that is it's no longer allowed to limit it to just family members working there. It's anybody. It's employees. It's not family members. That's very significant, I think. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of tweaking, and we will follow those changes through the city attorney's office to make sure we stay compliant. And if we have latitude, that we can go back and modify again.
I wouldn't be surprised if in this session, some things don't change
Right.
that we're in currently. But anyway, we don't have a choice. Well, this is for naught. We have to vote on it, and we have to vote yes.
Yeah.
I guess we could vote
don't have a
no,
choice.
but it's still going to be
Then we
enforced by
open
the
it.
state.
Yeah.
Well, because there's economic sanctions, so they'll come through. There's no choice. You're right.
Yeah.
So the recommended motion is to approve. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gardner, second
Second.
by Heisler. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reluctant ayes? Any nays? Ordinance passes. Agenda item number 5, ordinance number 2022-05. This is a final reading on a public hearing. Ordinance 2022-05 amends Section 110-315 permitted uses of the City of Clewiston's Code of Ordinances to include special exception uses for dwelling units with not less than 450 square feet in the multiple family residential district. That would be an R3. Antonio Perez of McGahey and Perez, PL, on behalf of Lakeside Detox LLC, requested a special exception to be allowed to build apartments in multifamily residential district R3, no smaller than 450 square feet. The City Planning and Zoning Board met on January 10th, 2022 to consider the request. Attorney Dylan Brandenburg informed the Planning and Zoning Board that this situation would not be considered for a special exemption and recommended they consider adding a special exception to the existing ordinance to allow the small apartments. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended adding the special exception to the city's existing ordinance. The vote was 4 yeas, 1 nay. Board member Jerry Cochran voted nay. The City Commission approved the first reading of Ordinance 2022-05 on January 24th of this year and set the public hearing for February 21st. Subsequent to the first reading and based on a following conversation with the attorney representing the owner, the proposed conditions listed herein have been modified as noted. The modifications are intended to not reward or penalize the applicant in terms of square footage of land area and to avoid the appearance that the smaller square footage units are designed for families. Do we have any community input at this time? Hearing none, there is no financial impact to the city. The recommended motion is to approve ordinance 2022-05. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gardner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Heisler. Do we have any commission discussion?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
I think this is the wrong direction for our city. I reckon these to tenant housing. We're going from multifamily to dwelling units. And I just think it's the wrong direction for the city and what it attracts.
Do we have any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment I want to make. I'm not against the project at all. I mean, I'm glad and hope we can have affordable rentals for single people. And I think the area, it's in an area that already has rental units. My rub is that we're changing the entire R3 zoning. Because after the last meeting, I went back and said, hey, how many can I add on my existing property? I mean, I can Now, I know it doesn't change the density, but I would just hate for everyone now that owns R3 property and already has dwelling units on it, could go back and recalculate and add more units because they had the land to do it, but they just chose not to do it at that time. I would like to keep it, and Dylan, this may be a question for you. I mean, there was no other way to do this except to change the entire district and add this exception.
Well, this is generally what a special exception would be, something relating to individual properties that isn't related to some kind of natural phenomenon. This would, it has to apply equally. Otherwise, it would just, if it's available to one property, it has to be available to all properties. You still have a modicum of control. It has to go through a approval process in front of a board that gets to make, look at each one of them on sort of a case-by-case basis. But it is the sort of thing that a special exception would have to be placed within your zoning category, correct?
If we could comment, go ahead.
I went and looked at,
Name and
sorry, Antonio Perez.
thank you, sir.
I went and looked at some of the R3 projects that are built back, and I couldn't find one where you could add more units. Not one of the ones that I looked at, even the duplexes that were built. This actually, and Mr. Commissioner Thompson, your concern, I'm not sure what you mean by the wrong direction. I think that this actually decreases density, decreases the number of people that would be in a specific area. So it's not moving in a direction of making a bigger footprint or putting more people in the same area that you would have without this. This actually is, I think, is the right direction because it makes less people and less construction on the same site. So I disagree that that's in the wrong direction. The special exception allows you to tie a number of things to it. So it's not automatic. You're not changing the R3 zoning designation completely. You're just saying now someone can come in and ask for a special exception to be able to build smaller units in an R3 area. So that's, if you have any other questions,
In those 450 square feet, what's the maximum tenants that can stay there?
I don't think there's a maximum tenants, but it's the same thing that like in 1,500 square feet units. I mean, there's no maximum.
The reason why I ask is there's been discussion, last time, it's great for teachers, it's singles, but what's it to keep a family of 8 staying in there?
The same thing that
450 square feet.
The same thing that would stop in a residential neighborhood in LaBelle in a 4,500 square foot mobile home from having 45 people living in it, which is what's
Not where we want to go.
Not exactly. But there's nothing to stop that. So I think that if you're trying to put more people in an area, you tend to build them bigger, not smaller. It would be inconsistent to say you would have, or you would want to have, more than a few people in a 450 square foot apartment.
The concern I had when I first read it was about the, that it would be attractive to families, which I can't imagine a 400-foot square area. But I'm glad to see that has been removed from this about children's play area, because
No,
I don't believe that would be the right thing for what I would consider something for teachers, law enforcement, anyone that's single or a couple that have no family. To me, those would be exactly what they need. We have a shortage of those type of facilities, and I would rather see it compact versus spread out on the entire property or use every square foot of a property. There's a lot of green space that is left there, open space area, and the parking would be sufficient to meet either the adults that are probably one or two spaces per apartment. I don't know. I've learned over the years that you you do want to do projects to improve the housing situation, and we've looked at that over the years, and we've worked with the property owners to get that done. And I think that sometimes we ask a lot of things for it, and I think we should. And I think that we've gone through a special exception process here to bring in affordable, units that we have a little bit of control. Would we like more? Probably, but that would have to be an entire ordinance that would have to be looked at as far as how many people are in a square foot building or square foot apartment, just like on a house, or even motels, hotels that have extended stay that are even smaller.
I went to one project that was built, and I happen to own an apartment there, and it's 24 units. And when we originally approved it, we laid it out with less parking that's required. Well, today, those are large units. Those are actually 1,600 square foot units. And what you got now is that you'll get a mom, a dad, maybe 3 kids. They all have cars. And in that complex, we've taken out the playground. We've taken out all the green space we can, and we still don't have enough space to build 2 parking spaces per apartment. I know that because my apartment is the only one that doesn't have 2 parking spaces. It has 1, and there is physically no room to build that. Now, if they were smaller apartments, they would, because the same rules would apply for the R3 zoning. So I think that where I would agree with you would be, and we'll see that in larger cities, where someone would say, if I'm going to build 450 square foot apartments, let me build twice as many, or 1.5 apartment units, because I'm only using 60% of the square footage. So that would be an aggressive position, and I think it's a position that you'll see in other communities. But this ordinance, I think, is a very conservative position, where you're actually having less density, more green area, and in theory, less people in the same space. So I think it's a positive thing.
Is this construction, or is this a conversion of an existing
It's a
dwelling?
conversion of an existing building.
That's been sitting vacant for how long?
Any other discussion?
Just one point I want to make sure there's clarity on. As noted in the agenda, it's not intended to reward them with any higher density. The way it's written, they actually, just for clarity, particularly the public, they wouldn't be able to get any additional units. So going to the smaller size, as noted, we get more open space. And I agreed with the change once we reread it. We didn't want to give the appearance that it was for families, because it's clearly not, and it won't be designed for that. But I think it'll be something that'll be rarely utilized, and it could be only in buildings that are being renovated or repaired, like this one. So and somebody building a new project to do this and limit it their units to this size and not get any reward of extra units, I don't see it opening a floodgate in essence. And I don't know if Travis wants to add anything to that, but that's how he and I discussed it. But at the same time, the original draft penalized them, and I think that was the wrong way to go too, because that disincentivized anybody to do it, and particularly this project, given the tenure of how long it's been vacant and sitting there deteriorating. I think we've got to get creative because I heard in the media, and I know everybody has, the high cost of rents and how rents are escalating. So I think we've got to be responsive to that in creative ways that don't have too many unintended consequences, granted, but it's getting more difficult to rent and do it in a traditional sense. And by not offering an option that gives for a smaller square footage for those who fall into that category, like singles and couples, I think it's short-sighted on our part.
I think it's a step in the right direction. You know, metropolitan areas, New York City had the tiny living, if you will, for forever. I did a lot of traveling over the holidays, and I noticed everywhere I went, whether it was out west, whether it was up north, are following that trend for the smaller living, just specifically for that reason, for the professionals, and to be able to have a place for those singles, because it added another level of attraction for people to come and work and stay. So I think for me, it's in the right direction.
Well, I just want to be specific. I'm a non-support this because we have no limitations on head count.
Can you even do that? Looking at Travis, but I guess the lawyer would have to
I don't
answer
know.
that.
It's a good question because it would really be challenged in force. One thing we can't discount, though, in a development this size and with the investment that it's going to take to renovate this property, I think it would be counterproductive for the owner, the manager, to allow it to be abused. So I think policing themselves is probably the more effective way for something like that to be managed, in my opinion, because they can control who they rent to, and if they have in their language limitations that might impact, I'll leave it to the lawyers to figure out what they can legally do. But I know if I was renting and I knew if I allowed someone to go in there and they abused some reasonable limit on it, and that was going to adversely impact my ability to rent the rest of the units, I would be very concerned and I would take action if I were an owner. I don't know if the attorney wants to comment on that. I'll leave it to him.
Well, I understand the concern, but I don't think it's merited because we don't limit on any unit. So on a 750 square foot unit now, what's to stop someone from having 8 people in there? Like I said earlier, I know of a unit in LaBelle that's 4,500 square feet, and when you want to get more people in, what you do is you make units bigger. You don't make them smaller. So that unit has 45 people in it. It's 4,500 square feet. That's I believe where you're going to see people stuffed in tight quarters and in the direction we don't want to go. I don't see that in smaller units. You tend to want to get more people in a big unit, not more people in a small unit. So,
Yeah, and my comments were intended for any size unit. I think the owner has a vest in it to take whatever action they legally can to be cautious of that and avoid it.
Any other discussion or comments? We have a motion to approve by Gardner, a second by Highslope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We have 4 aye, 1 nay. Ordinance passes. Ordinance number 2022-06. This is item number 6 on the agenda. Ordinance 2022-06 amends the future land use map of the comprehensive plan to reflect 601 West Alvarez Avenue and Block 110 of the general plan of Clewiston as multifamily to family to meet the standards of a small-scale amendment. The applicant, Antonio Perez of McGahey and Perez PL, on behalf of Lakeside Detox LLC, is requesting a small-scale future land use map amendment for the property located at 601 West Alvarez Ave, more particularly described as all of Block 110, less the north 420 feet thereof of the general plan of Clewiston. The applicant is also requesting a concurrent rezoning of the subject property from Public District P to Multifamily Residential District in R3. The City Planning and Zoning Board met on January 10th of 22 to consider the request, and after review and discussion, recommended approval of the amendment to the small-scale future land use map of the comprehensive plan. The vote was 4 yeas, 1 nay. Board Member Jerry Cochran voted nay. The City Commission approved the first reading of Ordinance 2206 on January 24th of this year and set the public hearing for February 21st. Do we have any community input at this time? Recommended motion is to approve ordinance number 2022-06. Do we have motion by Pittman? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gardner. Do we have any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay?
Nay.
We have 4 aye, 1 nay. Nay is Commissioner Thompson. Ordinance is passed. Ordinance number 22-07. This is agenda item number 7. Background, Ordinance 2207 amends the official zoning map of the City of Clewiston to reflect 601 West Alvarez and Block 110 of the General Plan of Clewiston as multifamily residential and R3. The applicant, Antonia Perez of McGahey and Perez PL, on behalf of Lakeside Detox LLC, is requesting a zoning land use change for the property located at 601 West Alvarez Avenue, more particularly described as all of Block 110 less the north 420 feet thereof of the General Plan of Clewiston. The Planning and Zoning Board met on January 10th of this year to consider the request, and after review and discussion, recommended approval of the rezone of all of Block 110 less the north 420 feet thereof of the General Plan of Clewiston. The vote was 4 yeas, 1 nay. Board Member Jerry Cochran voted nay. The City Commission approved the first reading of Ordinance 2022-07 on January 24th of this year and set the public hearing for today, February 21st. Do we have any community input on this item? Hearing none, the recommended motion is to approve ordinance number 2022-07. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Gardner. Do we have a second? Second by Heisloop. Do we have any other commission discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 8 is Resolution 2022-006. This approves the Transportation Off-System Post-Project Maintenance Agreement. This is FPID number 438-068-1-52-01 between the Florida Department of Transportation and the City of Clewiston for the maintenance upon completion of the project of the sidewalk along the west side of Royal Palm Ave from US 27 North to Avenida del Rio Avenue and along the east side of Ponce de Leon Avenue from US 27 North to Balboa Plaza. Pursuant to Florida Statute 339.08 and the Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century MAP-21, FDOT is authorized and has undertaken and obtained approval for federal participation in a sidewalk installation project. Upon completion of the project, the city shall be responsible for maintenance of the sidewalk. Do we have any community input at this time? If you would state your name and your address, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Stephanie Busen, 429 Royal Palm Avenue. Thank you for this opportunity to address the Commission, Mayor Peterson, and Honorable Commissioners. So this has been something that has been on this particular topic and that sidewalk on a duplicate sidewalk, may I add, on Royal Palm Avenue, 30 steps away from one that exists currently, has been on my radar for a couple of years now. It started when I found a something for the Regional Transportation Planning and Zoning, one of those groups, and it was talking about what Hendry County and the municipalities within Hendry County were doing. And I saw a project for Royal Palm Avenue and a duplicate sidewalk. And so I started reaching out on it and asking some questions. I want to provide, I'm a visual learner. I like to see things. And so I have little packets for everybody so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I have one for you because I know it'll be a public record. And if you would just take one and pass it on, I would appreciate that. So the way I got here tonight on your podium is because I have been reaching out since January 10th, 2020, about my concerns regarding this project. And I have been told repeatedly that this is going to be a non-issue for Royal Palm Avenue. If you look, these are all public record emails that I have sent. I even have some screenshots of text messages that would make it very clear to this commission of why I'm so surprised that I'm seeing this resolution on the agenda today. I've made public record requests because when you have a project like this, a DOT project, and agencies, I said, you know, I want to see what the grants, what is this grant for? Give me some information on this. And when I made a public records request, I was told that there was nothing. There was no documentation. There was no paper trail on it. And it was very concerning to me. And when I started calling that out, that how in the world can you have a DOT 5-year plan? And I made that known to our city manager and the mayor at the time, then all of a sudden I did get some public records. They found some. And when I'm looking at the public records, and all of this is here for you guys to see what I received in my request, but none of those were leading up to any indication that we were going to go forward with this. The communication that I received was this is going to be a non-priority, particularly since it was a duplicate sidewalk. We had other sidewalks within the community or places with high traffic and no sidewalks. And so when I saw this resolution pop up and I'm looking at it, we're talking about an unknown financial impact here. And as I read through it, it says essentially that this project that I was assured that was not happening is happening, and the city of Clewiston is on the hook for maintaining the sidewalks. Well, I currently have a sidewalk on my property that is adjacent to my property now, and if you look, I've included pictures of this one sidewalk on one side. It's pretty atrocious. We're not maintaining what we have right now, and when I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, so we're going to put another one of these in here for us to maintain and edge around and take care of. And so when I look at the plans, going back to this resolution, and I look at the plans on Royal Palm Avenue, on the corner, I live at, of course, on the corner of Arcade and Royal Palm, and they put the city put in a big, like a drainage swell there with a big grate there that keeps Royal Palm draining well. And so instead of even having a straight sidewalk through that right-of-way to my yard, we're just going to go around it. I mean, it almost reminds me of, I don't know, I have teenage kids and they're into memes. But when somebody says it's not my job, or that you see them like the road painting crew that like paints around like the dead animal, I mean, that's what I see is that being cut out there. And then I start wondering if this is a DOT project. As I'm cruising down 27, I see these massive street signs, and I don't think that they fit our community, small community, these huge big city signs that you see up there. And so I'm wondering, are we going to put a big metal safety bar there so people don't fall into the drainage, and is that going to have people like sitting on the corner of my property? I mean, there's a lot of different questions I have. I think the design on this is a thumbs down for me. And so it's easy to get up here and say, this is what I don't like, this is what I think you're doing wrong, and give a thumbs down and be a critic. It's easy to do that all day long. Of the public records that I did receive, one of them was the Clewiston sidewalk inventory. And because I cannot hardly see anything on this map, if you guys flip your copy over, you will see that I have blown up the map to help us with more mature eyes see what I'm talking about here. Now, we're looking at a sidewalk inventory, and it's all these red lines that you're seeing on here. I have noted where our schools are at. And then if you see these lines that have the dashed lines and they're highlighted in yellow, those are places where we currently do not have sidewalks. And if you look, these are routes, safe school routes to schools. These are routes that would help our residents access community amenities. I mean, for example, at my house, my child has to take 30 steps. I got out there this morning, and I, clearly don't have a big gazelle-like athletic gait. 30 steps across the road and would be on a sidewalk and could access our neighborhood community amenities. But for instance, if Mrs. Peterson's grandson came down and he wanted to go down to pick up, a game of pickup basketball at Trinidad Park, which is the area closest to that resident, he doesn't have a sidewalk. We have sidewalks on Esperanza, 10-acre field. We don't have a sidewalk there. This is where kids are converging. We have CYDA kids. That's a school right there. Kids are standing out in the right-of-way without a sidewalk. I'm looking at Avenida del Rio. I've had some near-death incidences on a bike and walking in dark hours on that place, as well as on West Del Monte, and in particular in front of Clewiston Middle School. There is no place for those kids to cross that road and stay out of traffic and have a sidewalk to walk on. And so, I ask you guys tonight. I'm probably dropped a lot of information on you. It has not worked well for me to have conversations behind closed doors. I believe public discourse and public discussion brings forth better public policy. And I wanted to put this before you tonight and put this information on you and ask you possibly to table until the next meeting till we can find our trail on how this all came about. And because the way that I'm looking at it now is that I feel like, from what I can deduce from what I have gotten, that staff has made a lot of decisions on how to do this and where they want to put their resources. I don't feel like they're equitable resources that serve the community as a whole. And I just wanted you guys to know what had, occurred in this timeline in these last couple of years before you make your decision. And because I think it's very concerning that I have been aggressively seeking information on this and have not been able to get it. And this was, after all that investment of time, this is, I found out on the city agenda.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I could make a few comments. One, in the research that I was able to do when Ms. Busen had brought this to my attention some time ago, as she's documented, we couldn't find very much in terms of anything that would give us insight as to why this was submitted on behalf of the city, I presume, for it to get into the DOT ranking system. Apparently that was done several years ago, because most of these take several years to rise to the level of getting funded, and this one would be no exception. I don't have a lot of insight based on what I've seen and heard as to how that transpired, but it did. And we did discuss it with the commission. I don't remember the date of the meeting, but I believe it was at a workshop on what to do in this particular case, because I do not disagree with the comments, and I've shared that with Ms. Busen and others, that we have a lot of needs in the sidewalk area. There's no doubt about it, several gaps. I think we've been aggressive in trying to fill some of those. We were successful. It hadn't been built yet, but we did get appropriations approved for other sidewalk areas, one of which is coming up later on the agenda. That is a definite area that's a gap. We received approval for a Safe Routes to Schools grant that addresses a number of street sections that are in close proximity to schools that provide for sidewalks. What was very clear when I began to investigate this with DOT was that this priority that had been established, however it was done and put into the cycle, once it rose to the level of being an appropriation, that you could not, as a city, redirect those funds. They're ranked based on the merits of each request. And as I understand it, if you pull that request or ask for it not to be done, then you lose the priority of those funds and they go somewhere else to another community that was in that same ranking. You can't just say, well, we'd rather you do Street X than instead of this, because the current commission and administration believes that to be a different priority. I've reported that to the city commission, and the consensus of opinion at that time, whenever that was, I think a couple years ago, a year plus, during that cycle, was not to forego losing the funds, but to keep the project and move forward. And knowing that it's not even funded till, I guess it's the next funding cycle, I think next year, that it is a list. The engineer might have better insight onto that, the timing of it, but I knew it was going to be some time before it was constructed, because these can be as much as 3 to 5 years into the future.
Randy, I have a quick question,
ma'am.
though. What is the upside? What is the benefit to the community in having a sidewalk like Miss Busen is saying? Because I walk this sidewalk just about every day, and it is, I mean, these pictures are just a very limited space that Miss Busen took.
Mm-hmm.
The sidewalks in our community are in
Well,
rough condition. But what is the benefit of having a sidewalk just on the other side?
all right, I'll comment on that, because that's a very good point. Going to the maintenance of it, that is on the city. What we do in terms of maintaining them is a city matter, and we obviously have not done in the past a great job with maintaining some sections. I don't disagree with those comments,
I mean,
but
it's not a knock on staff or anything
no,
like that.
but I do believe we
this
will
doesn't
do better
happen
on
in
that. I do
2
believe
years.
there's a plan to make that better, and I think that's going to be improved going into the future. And of course, funding is a part of that. But when you got very limited transportation dollars, we as a city in the past have been applying those pretty much almost all of it to hot spots or resurfacing. And so, we've talked about redirecting and looking at alternatives for drainage and sidewalks and so forth. But in any event, we've had good success in obtaining approvals for additional sidewalk construction that hopefully over the next 12 to 24 months, we'll see a number of those sections built based on the funding we've already gotten approved. But to answer specifically to your thing, the only thing I could say is this is a wider street, more of a what I call a boulevard type that has a divided median, and those quite frequently and design include sidewalks on both sides to discourage crossing because of the width and the medians and so on and so on. Granted, this particular one doesn't have a high volume of through traffic, in my opinion, compared to some other wider street sections, but it is one of our few that has a divided median and so forth. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, I think, is a little more difficult to really put a tangible finger on it, and that's what does it do to our ability to get these grants if, for example, in this case, you say, we don't want it. I do know that in my experience in other states, not so much here because I haven't been faced with it, but the downside is if you let a project of this nature go and you don't take the funding, then it could be adversely impact on your ability to get other funds from the same agency. I know that applies in other state agencies such as recreation dollars, and I would not be surprised if it wouldn't be similar with DOT.
They don't like getting that money back.
Yeah, well, it creates complications, and particularly when you're asking for it. Now, granted, there's no doubt that if I was sitting down doing priorities, this would not have been as high a priority as a number of other locations, but I wasn't, and that's water under the bridge, if you will.
Short and to the point.
Yep. So,
Use it or lose it.
yeah, pretty much that's it, and that is the case here. The commission consensus at the time I brought this forward was to go forward and not turn it back in or to say no. Now,
Is there an option to flip it, replace
sidewalk on the other side?
Not in this cycle, because it was ranked against other communities' requests based on the specific criteria of this location and the design. And that is, we outranked somebody, and they would not give it back to us. It would go back into the ranking pool for some future allocation.
And then they hold it against you.
Very possible. They won't probably tell you that, but that's been my experience over the years. So that's my recollection of the way this has evolved, and where we are now. That we are at a point, going to the last point I wanted to make, the request to table it. We have deferred this for as long as I believe we possibly can. If we, by default, at some point, we're going to lose it if we don't do it. And we may be at the precipice of that right now. I know the engineers had more direct conversations, but DOT wants to know, because they're at a point they're going to spend more money. They've already spent design money, engineering money, planning money, all of those things. So I think once we reach that point where I came to the commission of where do we go from here, at that point, we effectively elected to go forward, and that's been the where our engineers been working with them ever since to try to resolve these design issues and avoiding on site, working with the church and others, and how we can maneuver through an area that's developed out and minimize adverse impacts on the property owners.
To me, the points that were raised tonight, this project was placed as a priority, but not by a commission.
My understanding,
Commission never voted as this as a priority.
No record of it.
And I know this is in the past, but this just shows that a bad decision was made, and we continue to perpetuate a bad decision. And I say it's a bad decision because Royal Palm Avenue has been there since the 1930s. There is no need for a duplicate sidewalk on Royal Palm when we have, and I ride this area quite a bit on the south side because I grew up on the south side, but we have from Sagamore, on Sagamore Avenue, from the hospital to W.C. Owen, we don't have a sidewalk. We don't have a sidewalk in the north side at the middle school, where I had to stop many times with kids walking in the middle of the road. We have Trinidad Park. Not one sidewalk leads to that park. We have Candy Cane Park. No sidewalks lead to that park. Now, I don't know how the decision was made, but for us to rubber stamp a bad decision to get a duplicate sidewalk in an area, as Randy, you just said, that you don't see a need for it. It would not have been your priority. No. It was not the priority of the commission, this commission, past commission, 2 years ago commission. And for us to keep rubber stamping a bad decision that was made without the knowledge of the commission, to me, is a concern. But because I have seen sidewalks, this one that was brought tonight does not look as bad as some of the sidewalks we see.
I'm just stating my experience.
When my home on Ponce de Leon, when you walk that neighborhood, you walk into sand. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have a sidewalk.
Around the back?
Around the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the grant cycle, I think we should ask for forgiveness. I mean, we've gotten grant cycles before where we've gotten the money and we could not fulfill the grant and we had to pay it back. And we've been that way. But for us to rubber stamp a bad decision to put in a sidewalk that we will have to maintain forever, and it is not needed, I don't believe is in the best interest of the community. But when we have maintenance budgets that have shrunk over the years and that we can't maintain what we have. And as we talk about our parks, that's another issue, that we're not maintaining them to that standard, nor the sidewalks, nor that we have no sidewalks in some of those areas. Dean Duff, where I grew up, where you have adults and children walking up from those neighborhoods into the downtown area, there's no sidewalks on that whole length of that street, other than in the commercial area from Ventura North.
Or you have, people coming up WCON and turning into Sugarland Park, to walk down to Sugarland Park. There's nothing there.
And we have also areas where on the Crescent Drive, there's no sidewalks on Crescent. Now, why was it, to me, and that goes to schools. So That's my opinion. I didn't support it back when the commission felt that we've already applied for it. We have to take it. And I say, no, we don't have to take it. This was not a commission decision. We're here to set the policy. And obviously we did not set this policy. And that is not a good model to follow.
And I would not disagree with those comments. I do think that it's incumbent on us to do better in two ways. One, and that was part of the impetus
And
in
I'll
that
just
discussion.
say, this started back in 2016.
Sure, I know.
Whenever that application was
No question.
submitted, it was back.
And this is nothing personal. I'm not taking it personal, but
Hillary said it's not. I'm not pointing at
I
staff
know.
right now. It's just it's where we're at, and that we can't maintain the sidewalks that we have. That we don't have sidewalks in necessary places in our community for safety reasons, especially on the south side of town. And yet we're going to consider a sidewalk that we do not need, and that we're going to have to maintain it perpetually. And so,
and I don't disagree with those points. The timing is the timing, and it's a fact. But I do believe we've set in motion that during that discussion, that only through this board's approval will future priorities be submitted, and we've stuck to that on street resurfacing projects. The SCOP grant applications we've submitted have followed that. We developed the CIP with our plans for these streets and showing the ones that we've applied for. And the commission since that time has been on top of that in approval. And as long as I'm in this seat of making that administrative process work, I'm going to ensure that it does come to the commission for any future approvals, just like this one's here for the formal action of accepting the agreement. That's really what we're doing, is just approving the agreement, the contract that's required to go forward. The second point is maintenance is something you got to stay after. We've already, I believe, made some strides in that, and our Director of Operations has begun the process of doing better at maintaining these sidewalks and going back and fixing some of these problems. We took action to shift some of the responsibilities for mowing away from our staff to relieve them so they can do more in drainage and sidewalk maintenance. And that's our intention administratively, to do that going forward. So those are the two comments I would make. I would still, at this point, recommend we pursue going forward with this, because it is part of a system, and it's a piece of the system, and it only would be it does add some cost to maintenance longer term, but in the shorter term, it wouldn't be any maintenance costs for probably more than a decade, unless somebody broke something, but or even longer. But I'll be glad to defer to the engineer if he wants to add anything, or our Director of Operations. But my opinion would be, as reluctant as I am to the way this occurred, and the process was flawed. Again, I don't know who to hang that on whose neck, but it no doubt that it occurred, and the city administrative system did not bring it to the board for board action at the time it was initiated as a priority several years ago. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions or further elaborate if necessary. But Danny, do you want to add anything?
I don't think we need to elaborate anymore.
Okay.
We beat this thing. That's the first time I saw this resolution when I got my agenda. And I saw people a couple of years ago putting stakes out on Royal Palm. My wife said, "What is that?" I said, "I have no idea." And when we found out it was a sidewalk, it wasn't very popular discussion. I said, "Why are we putting it there?" "I don't know why we're putting it there." I agree with most everything that Stephanie said. I don't think we need another sidewalk there. And I don't need another shirt hanging in my closet that I don't need, that I have to maintain and lose money on. So I say we call them, say we made a mistake, please forgive us, and take your money back. And if you treat us badly in the future, well, that's just what it is. But to put a sidewalk in that we don't need, and
I would like to maybe table it and get citizen input. I say fix the one on the other side of the road
Yes, sir.
that I walk a lot. So I would be in favor of at least tabling it, calling DOT, you know, not just vote not to do it and not say anything, but call them and talk to them and let them know the predicament we're in. Let them know that it wasn't commission approved and so forth and so on. But when I saw that on this tonight, I won't be supporting this tonight at all.
But emotions.
Motion.
Second.
And
Let's
the
vote
motion-
and move on.
Motion was to,
Motion is to table, Mr. Pittman?
To
Commissioner
table
Pittman?
and gather citizen and FDOT input.
Okay, we have a motion to table for citizen input and to contact DOT by Pittman. Yes, sir.
Don't be reading my
Danny Williams, Director of Operations. I think you better make a decision because they're moving. We've engineered this. It's designed. I've already got to move water lines. We are looking at drainage. I am thankful. I was not a fan of this. What you said and everybody, we do have issues. And we are moving that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you better make your decision tonight is my recommendation.
Danny, will this improve drainage? Will it hinder
No,
it?
we're just moving. Well, yes, I think we do have to move one inlet.
Danny,
And I've also got to move a water line. I think it's great that these projects, they don't support the utilities. When they bring in, I may have to move underground, and that comes out of our pocket. And again, I'm not a fan of that.
who
also.
paid for the engineering that's already been done?
Andy Tilton for the record. The engineering for the design of the sidewalk has been completed. The planned construction will be somewhere between middle of this year and next year. I don't have an exact date for when they're going to start if it were approved. They're talking about combining this one with the San Luis, which is the next item on your agenda, to do one contract for construction if both of them are approved here. As far as drainage goes, they look at the drainage very carefully and have added some inlets in a few places where the sidewalk will be high enough so it'll stay dry when somebody's walking on it, but that's cut off the drainage that's there today. So they've added inlets into the system to, which again, will become the city's to operate and maintain. So there's additional features there, but that's how they address the drainage, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Who paid for the engineering that's been done already?
All of the engineering that's been done has been through an FDOT contract, again, which we had, other than saying, here's somebody years ago said, here's where we want a sidewalk. All of that has been done through the FDOT. The city's cost to date has been responding to, as director said, we have to respond and say, here's where our water lines are, sewer lines, electric lines, things like that. We have to look at them and make sure what they're proposing doesn't negatively impact city facilities, or if it does, do we have to make adjustments? In the case on San Luis, we do have an electric line that's going to have to get moved to be able to put the drainage in so that the sidewalk can go where it needs to.
That's the next project, correct?
That's the next project, yes, sir. But so we do look, that is the city's cost, has been looking at the plans, reviewing them, making comments, and then looking at our utilities. So that's the cost. But the cost of the actual plans, gathering the field survey data, that has all been done by FDOT.
So if we decide not to do this project, are we going to get a bill for that?
I don't know the rules and regulations on the earlier agreement to have this done. I cannot give you an answer on that because I don't know the answer, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
So would a better motion be that we're not going to fund any of Danny's work to move any drainage, any water lines, anything on this project And therefore, because of that, we don't have the money to do it. We can't do our part, so they can't put the sidewalk in.
I don't know. It would seem to me you have it. The only action that's before you is to approve the agreement or not. So that
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion. And I'll just change it. I'll make a motion not to approve the resolution.
Second.
Second, 2022-006.
So we have a motion to not approve by Pittman, and it's seconded by Gardner. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
and we will communicate with them the circumstances. I honestly, I'd already done that when we talked about it a couple years ago, but we will reiterate the reason why. Reasons.
Equity issue, I think it's a big one.
Just makes me uneasy that we'll have a future impact for a decision that somebody made for us.
Well, that, and
As
and-
far as financing
and
other
that's-
projects. All right, agenda item number 9 is resolution number 2022-007. This approves the Transportation Off-System Post-Project Maintenance Agreement, FPID 437098-1-52-01, between the Florida Department of Transportation and the City of Clewiston for the maintenance upon completion of the project of the sidewalk along San Luis Avenue from Alvarez Avenue to US Highway 27 and along North Berner Road from US 27 to the Walmart driveway. Pursuant to Florida State Statute 339.08 and the Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century MAP 21, FDOT is authorized and has undertaken and obtained approval for federal participation in a sidewalk installation project. Upon completion of the project, the city shall be responsible for maintenance of the sidewalk. Do we have any community input on this resolution? Hearing none, the financial impact to the city is unknown. The recommended motion is to approve resolution 2022-007.
Second.
Moved by Thompson, second by Gardner. Do we have any discussion?
I just wanted to say that this is a much-needed sidewalk. I've been riding San Luis for many years, and on that section from Alvarez North to Highway 27, even this past weekend when I went to ride it again, I saw 3 adults walking in the road because there's not a sidewalk along there. And so I think on either side of the road, certainly, but that's so necessary on the east side. And of course, the Berner Road one, to me, that's a dangerous, when you see people jaywalking across there, I think that is so necessary to have that sidewalk as a destination for those crossing the highway. And I know there's more work that needs to be done on that North Berner Road, and that's part of the things that I know that staff is working on, but certainly to improve that area for pedestrian walking, because I see a lot of people walking with trash, not trash, sorry, I call them trash because I see them throughout the community, but for shopping carts filled with, and so there's a lot of people in that area that do not have cars, and they walk. So I think it's a very important project.
Any other commission discussion? Andy, did you want to say something?
Andy Tilton, for the record, just a point of clarification. This agreement only obligates the city to operate and maintain going forward in the future those parts that are on city streets. That's why if the whole plans cover a large piece along US 27 that's in the 27 right of way, the city will not be responsible for operating and maintaining that. I just wanted to make that clear if somebody had that question in their mind.
Do we have any other discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 10. This is resolution 2022-08. Resolution 2022-08 accepts the proposal from Johnson Davis, Inc. in the total amount of $717,895 for Phase 1 of the Alvarez Avenue and Commercio Street Water Main Improvements Project and approves the agreement between the City of Clewiston and Johnson Davis, Incorporated. The city issued invitation to bid number 2021-07 for the Alvarez Avenue and Commercio Street Water Main Improvements Project on January 5th, 2022. This work consists of installing a water main pipeline along Alvarez Avenue and Commercio Street. The goal of this project is to provide improved flow capacity for existing commercial and residential use and fire flows. 2 proposals were received and opened on January 27th, 2022. City consulting engineer Johnson Engineering has reviewed the proposals and recommends awarding the contract to Johnson Davis Incorporated. The financial impact is $717,895 and will utilize ARPA federal funding for Phase 1 award at this time. Do we have any community input on this resolution? Hearing none, the recommended motion is to approve Resolution 2022-08. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Highslope, seconded by Thompson. Do we have any commission discussion?
I just know that a lot of the businesses in the area are eagerly anticipating this project. They
Yes.
really are.
And this will be paid back through our water sewer fund.
No, the ARPA grant funding will pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 11. This is Resolution 2022-09. Resolution 2209 approves administration's recommendation to reduce the lien to a maximum of $5,000, consistent with the special magistrate's recommendation in order granting a fine reduction request, recommendation, City of Clewiston, Florida, versus Lakeside Detox LLC, Code Compliance Case Number 18-0085, dated November 16th, 2021. The property located at 601 West Alvarez Avenue, Clewiston, is a commercially zoned vacant building owned by Lakeside Detox LLC. Since 2018, the property has been in violation of Clewiston Ordinance Section 110-531, subsection B, subsection 1, subsection C. Commercial development and improvement, plywood panels permanently covering windows. Code enforcement case number is 18-0085. The respondent did not complete the corrective actions, removing the plywood panel from the windows, to bring the property into compliance with the special magistrate's order on September 19th, 2018, by October 4th of 2018. The special magistrate at the fine assessment hearing on November 28th of 2018 approved the recording of a lien as ordered on code enforcement case number 18-0085 during the September 19th, 2018 hearing. The lien was recorded on 11/30 of 18 with the Henry County Clerk of Courts. The properties remained in violation of the order and continues to accrue a $100 a day fine since October 4th, 2018. The property owner, Lakeside Detox, completed a fine lien reduction application for 18-0085 and was heard by the magistrate on November 16th of 2021. As of January 21st, 22, the day of this writing, a total of 1,206 days of violation have accrued the ordered $100 per day fine for a total of $120,600. And the fine will continue to accrue by $100 daily until the property is brought into compliance. Administration recommends reducing the lien to a maximum of $5,000 consistent with the special magistrate's recommendation in order granting a fine reduction request, recommendation, City of Clewiston, Florida v. Lakeside Detox, Code Compliance Case 18-0085, dated the 16th of November of 2021. The financial impact here, special magistrate order administrative fee of $150 outstanding from code enforcement case number 18-0085. No other hard costs have been expended with city funds for the continuance of the violation. The total accrued fines as of January 21st, 2022 is $120,600. Do we have any community input on this? Would you state your name and
My name
address?
is
first?
Louis D'Onofrio.
Yes, sir.
I represent Lakeside Detox. And
Yes.
first and foremost, I'd like to really, really apologize for the situation we're in, or I'm in. You have a dream, you want to bring a business to a town, and things unfortunately don't go the way you expect them to go. And I ended up in this situation, and nothing was done on purpose. You know, I feel terrible about the situation, and I want to apologize about that sincerely.
We appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
I might have a question for the.
Sure. Mr.
Before we
D'Onofrio.
finish, after the board discusses it.
Okay.
maybe. So,
At this time, the recommended motion is to approve resolution 2022-009.
Before the board acts on that,
Yes, sir.
at some point, I have a comment before you act.
Okay, before the vote, we'll,
Maybe before you make it. As you saw in the agenda package, administrative recommendations been made to reduce the lien to $5,000. No, to a maximum of $5,000, consistent with the magistrate's recommendation in his order granting of fine reduction request. All right, I want to point out that in his order, the magistrate's order, he notes two things that are significant in that, and I want to make sure the owner understands it and the board's clear on what you're being asked. If you agree to this an amount to reduce it to, and I've suggested $5,000, a maximum of $5,000, our fixed costs are very low, but we have spent a lot of effort and time in this. There's no magic in the $5,000 if the board has other thoughts. But I feel like it needs to be an amount that incentivizes, if you will, the owner and the buyers to go forward and produce a result of a closing that would see this property improved and get out of non-compliance. It could be gotten out of non-compliance without the sale, but from what we received in here in terms of correspondence, there's a real concern that this property could end up in a foreclosure proceeding almost immediately if this doesn't go forward. That's just what I've been told.
Correct.
Yeah.
Foreclosure by who?
I'm sorry.
Foreclosure by who?
I would have to let them defer, but it's my understanding it's financed. The property is financed.
Correct. With First Bank.
First Bank.
Shoot.
Okay.
So
But
if we're going to discuss it, let's discuss it.
But the two things that are important though to remember is any action you take, the magistrate says that you give them a date that's reasonable, and that's where we need some input if you're inclined to consider this request. To what is a reasonable date to make it where it would come back to the board before we finalize the reduction. The second thing is that it be contingent upon the rezoning and sale. Well, the rezoning was early in the meeting. That box is checked. Now it's solely the sale of the property. So I just wanted to be sure to point that out. And then at the appropriate time, before you finalize your action, we determine a date certain where it would come back to the board if the sale has not been consummated by that date. And maybe between the representative, the buyer, and the owner representative, we can ascertain that tonight.
okay, thank you for the information. For the point of discussion, can we have a motion in a second and then go to commission discussion? We have a motion by Heislope. We have a second by
Yes.
Pittman. All right,
I got a question.
discussion.
I'm sorry, can I just say something? I didn't realize all these details that were brought up tonight, so I'm going to recuse myself from any conversation because I am an employee of First Bank. And even though this would not affect me, financially, I don't want to continue on the discussion, so I'm not going to say anything else. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
As the-
Commissioner Gardner.
Has the owner owned the property for the whole 1,206 days? Or did you inherit it?
Ownership has
No,
not
he
changed.
inherits.
I purchased the building in 2016.
And the code officer just nodded in a concurrence with that.
So it was just boards over windows?
And some other miscellaneous code items, weeds, grass, things like
Cost
that.
any money to remove boards to be compliant?
So you know, the building was vandalized, and I got a note saying that I couldn't have broken windows. So I thought, okay, well, the next best solution, because I can't afford to put new windows up, is board the windows. I boarded the windows, then I got the notification about boarding doesn't work either.
And the windows, I assume, are still in disrepair under
Yeah,
the
they're all
boards.
shattered. And
Well, my concern is, you said incentivize. I would use the word reward to be out of compliant. We also don't want to reward homeowners for letting things sit for 1,200 days. This rewards. I don't agree with the 120,000, of course, but the 5 I don't agree with either.
Well,
as far as being for the threat of foreclosures, we just gave them a commercial building to flipping 450 square foot homes, and now we're going to reduce it by 96%. These fines.
And maybe incentivize is not the right word. I'm not incentivizing the current owner. It would be to incentivize the closing to sell it to someone else.
The current owner's not going to flip it.
I'm selling the property.
Right.
I'm taking a massive loss on the property.
Okay.
Right.
The law firm, who's fortunately came in and kind of saved the day for me at the moment.
So is the number or?
Resolution is 5,000.
One other comment, and again, this might be a legal matter that I'm not qualified to comment on, but hopefully someone either on the phone or here could. It concerns me that if it goes to foreclosure, the city will get nothing because liens would, and I see attorney approaching, maybe he can comment on that.
Well, generally
The
the
liens carry.
code enforcement would survive regardless of the foreclosure. I think you're right in your concern that other interests would have priority. But the code liens do survive foreclosures, and whatever the disposition of the property afterward would be, they would inherit it.
Antonio Perez. Dylan, with all due respect, Palm Bay case would wipe out the city code liens. So the way this would go down, in the Palm Bay case, I don't know if you're familiar with that case, but that case was decided probably about 5 years ago. The way there's two possible scenarios that this could go down. One is that there is no reduction or not a significant reduction, and the gentleman cannot pay him. So from the buyer's standpoint, the buyer's paying what they're paying. They're not paying any less or any more because of the liens. So if the seller cannot afford to pay him, cannot come out of pocket, which I'm assuming he's already taking a loss, and he possibly already owes more than the property is worth or very close to it. So he's not willing to come out of pocket just to sell the property. It would go into foreclosure, and the city would maybe want to defend it. I don't know with what the possible outcome or what they would be looking for in the possible outcome. But the city would be named as a defendant in the foreclosure. And at the end of the day, the property would be sold on the courthouse steps, and the owner of the property most likely would be First Bank. This would possibly occur 6 to 12 months down the road. And the city would get, in my opinion, zero. And they wouldn't have accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, which is get the boards down, get the property back to being productive. So I don't think that the city is really the purpose here, I believe, is to try to get the property in compliance. I don't think that not reducing the fine is going to accomplish that. I think that's only going to accomplish is exactly the opposite, which is the property will stay out of compliance for another 6 to 12 months while it goes through the foreclosure process. And at the end of the process, the city will get nothing. So
And doesn't help with the housing issue.
at some point it may, once the bank gets it back and the bank does something with it.
But we know there's a concrete solution to that now.
Correct. Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Recommended motion is to approve Resolution 2022-009.
And do we want to attach a
I
date
think we need to
certain?
have the date in
Date
there.
certain,
I'd
yeah.
like their input from both parties on what they think's a reasonable period of time.
You know, the proposed closing date would be
28th or 4th
of February. Okay, so let's say first week in March.
So we're
the
going to
new
make that
owner- the
by
new
March.
owner would be in compliance.
The new owner would have to bring the property into compliance. Someone would, whoever it is, would have to bring it into compliance.
And be by March 4th.
Not sure how that would happen, but
Well,
let me
let's be reasonable.
Yeah.
You're not going to replace the windows for 10 months because you can't order one right now. It takes 10 months to get a window.
Good point.
Okay, so it's either plywood or nothing.
So what holds the new owner? I mean, you drop the assessments, you sell it, the new owner sits on it, does the same thing. You start new, instead of that new buyer inheriting these assessments.
the new buyer's not going to inherit the assessment because there's no way that plays out. That scenario doesn't play out.
Walks.
We would institute a new proceeding if it wasn't done timely on the new owner, like we did on the old
So
one.
the
But I
only-
think that Jimmy's point is fair.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not going to happen
the
overnight.
reasonable date of timely. I mean, we can't expect this new buyer to be able to magically acquire windows that nobody else can get.
No, but all you would be setting the date for tonight is the
The closing.
the lien reduction when it's effective.
For the closing.
So can I ask what the city would expect during the construction phase or the rehabilitation phase for this project?
I think permits would be.
I think once you pull a permit, you
Yeah.
can knock holes in the walls, and as long as you have a safety fence or whatever.
Would the boards be okay as long as you have a permit and you're doing something or not?
I'm fine with that.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I think once it's under permit, then they can secure the building. It's not being occupied. Travis, you want to comment on that part? Since that would put it in your purview.
I think that's reasonable. If you had a permit and maybe even to go a step further, say a copy of the contract. So you'd have a date, something there, because.
Contract.
Right, a
not the-
contractor's contract, so a start date. We could not care about the cost, but a bona fide contract with a start date. Because construction delays are very, very common right now. Everyone's building, you see that. And
So
I think that's your incentive, and then if the caveat could be at any time that the permit expired, that it would be revisited. Maybe that could be suggested.
So any residence or business that's out of compliance now that has its assessments could just pull a permit and avoid all that?
No, it'd have to come before this legislative body. Code enforcement is completely separate, runs through the magistrate process. It's a little bit of a process to get a recommendation from a magistrate, as they have in this case, to get before the legislative board to say they pled their case at the magistrate, and somehow the magistrate agreed with the reduction. So that's the recommendation here.
But outside the reduction, if you just pull a permit,
That wouldn't eliminate any. The only thing that could stop a code enforcement case, if you were cited by code enforcement for doing work without a permit or something that required it, and it never reached the magistrate, then yes, that could stop.
but I think that was the question, the new owner. if they sit on it for 10 months and don't do anything to it?
Well, then it would kick back into code enforcement or to this body.
Well, I
to
believe
have it
that was the
dropped.
question, if the new owner buys it and you
No.
can't get windows.
Two points. One, I think the new owner, is what I'm hearing, would pursue a permit, and once they're under an active permit, and they can't just sit on a permit, they've got to be active and meet the criteria to keep an
If
active
you had
permit.
that contract in there, that's a little added something to say it's a legitimate, it's not just a contractor pulling a permit for the sake of getting out of some legislative action tonight.
I mean, this can't be the first time someone has wanted
No.
to rehabilitate a building in town that has been,
Code enforcement.
having code enforcement issues and under liens, and
I
surely there is a process.
A number of cases I've heard, and Debbie's here if we need her to comment. That's not uncommon that we will stop or freeze or whatever if they get a permit and they're under construction or planning construction, because there's a process. They can't just sit on it indefinitely, but that's not uncommon to us stopping enforcement processes once they've acquired.
Debbie, come on up.
If she wants to comment on that.
Well, she's coming up. I think if you, I don't know where they are in their process at all, but I would give them 60 days to get numbers, and I'd give them 90 days to get a contract and a permit. Because it's not going to happen in 2 or 3 weeks.
Post-closing.
Post-closing.
Yeah. I agree.
That's just some
5
numbers,
months.
throwing some numbers out.
And it could come back to you if there's something transpires we're not aware of.
But in the meantime, it has to be maintained, mowed, and if there's any plywood that's missing or has holes in it.
But none
it
of
has
that
to
is
be-
the resolution we're looking at right now, right?
Well, that wouldn't be part of the resolution. The key is the closing date. We
Right.
can come back with additional stuff, but he could make it part of the.
I want to
or she
attach
or
it to the
he.
motion, so we don't.
Yeah,
have
you
to-
can make it part of the motion. I think we just need to make sure the language is.
And what happens if they don't? Reverts back.
Well, if they don't close, then we reinitiate the fines, and because it's frozen right now or on hold since
Well,
the.
it's still accumulating right
It's
now.
still
There's
accumulating,
nothing-
yeah.
I'm sorry, my name is Debbie Clay for Code Enforcement, for the record. Right now, because the property has remained out of compliance, it's still accruing that $100 per the fine, the daily fine. So it's still in an accrual process, which was one of the unique things about this being heard by the magistrate, is because it was already at a lien for the body, the government body, to make the decision of the reduction. But because it was still out of compliance, we took it to get that recommendation from the magistrate for you guys. The 6-month window with the permit, I think, is the most logical and most easiest enforcement action for me to follow up with this, other than making the contract and stuff available within a reasonable time for you guys.
Never use the word reasonable in a contract.
Actually, Jimmy, what you brought up, I hadn't thought about. I had just thought about getting to I wasn't dealing with the code enforcement issues. Wasn't really even aware that was going on. We were just dealing with the purchase and the rezone. So the code enforcement issue kind of is something that came up couple weeks ago, but I wasn't aware of it, and I was actually surprised when the fines were that much money. I thought I would have thought that the city wanted boards on the windows, not to have boards. So I was because I know there was a homeless guy sleeping out there in the yard of that property, and they were probably trying to keep him out of the building. So I think that mowing is a non-issue, but you're right. You're not going to fix the windows in a few days, and I think that's what the city would want. Would be boards on the windows until the building gets rehabbed. So whatever y'all think.
I mean, an investor has to have a means of keeping people out if they're doing construction inside the building. Who wants to drop $10 on a building that they just purchased only to have open windows and people have easy access?
And $1,000 damage. On your $10 investment.
I want to point out too that the code that was cited was 110.530, which was plywood cannot be used permanently as shutters. So at the time that this plywood was placed on the property, it was placed because there was damage. The extensive length of time that the plywood has been used has made it permanent, which brought it into violation of your ordinance. Not the fact that he used plywood to protect his building at time when it was, when the windows were broke, but because it took so long, your ordinance does say that plywood cannot be used in a permanent manner.
And is that permanent, isn't it 90 days our permanent definition? I'm asking.
I have not seen a definition of permanent within our ordinance, actually.
1,206 in this case.
Any other questions? Any other? So
Who made the motion?
we had a motion, High Slope made a motion. We still have to have a date certain for the closing. And you said perhaps February 28th, if we knock it to March 4th, that gives you a little breathing room, a little leeway, correct?
We suspect it'll be. Yeah, we suspect it'll be before then, but things may come up. So, I mean, we're going to have to get something from the city to be able to close. So I don't know how long that's going to take.
The board authorizes it, it would be available for the closing tonight if they authorize it. And as long as it occurs within that time frame, if not, we could bring it back to you at the March meeting. If we didn't delay it till March because of concerns that it might foreclose before then.
Then any time in early March would be, I think, safe. The first week in March would be safe.
So we have a motion by High Slope, and it's going to be date certain. We'll make it. Want to do March 4th? You want to do?
Quote the motion.
We got to have some kind of a date, March 11th.
My recommendation, unless the attorney has a better suggestion, our attorney is to adopt the resolution and add to the motion in adopting it that the closing occur by date, whatever date you set. And then, what was the other part, Commissioner Pittman, you wanted to add the?
Okay, so we'll add to the motion that the property has to close by March 11th.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Friday. And then from the closing, we will, to prevent more occurring code fines, we will give them 60 days to, how do we want to word this?
To obtain permits?
Well, I was going to give them 90 days to actually, we'll just say 90 days to get the permit and a contract.
Construction permit to, and a contract. Okay.
Or what?
Or
Well, it comes back to
it
you.
comes back in the full amount of 120,000.
Well,
minus
plus,
the 5,000.
well, it actually be 120 plus the
Plus
accruals.
the days, yeah.
That's important to put in the motion.
But the new owner would automatically incur that 120,000?
We would not close, and you can't get a title company to insure with that kicker in there. Because
the fines will go away to the new owner. They wouldn't owe it, but it would be a lien on the property.
well,
potentially.
then the new owner
Not
would
gonna-
owe it.
They
The new
own it.
owner would own
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, they're not going to close, so go ahead.
Then a permit within 90 days.
Yeah, those two provisions, the date,
And if
and
it's not, then day 91, we'll start it over.
we come back.
No, you don't have to come back. She can just
Well, I mean,
go
we
to work.
report to you what the status is.
Yeah, it should revert to day one.
Well, it actually will go back to when 120 was calculated. It's going to be 100 every day since then, if it doesn't close.
Yes, and that's fine, but you can't have some issue. You can't go back and say that the new owner now is responsible for $120,000 in
Correct.
fines.
Right.
They'll be responsible to 5,000 at this point if they comply with all the other provisions that you stipulate.
No, not this
How about-
gentleman.
How
This
about,
gentleman,
how about asking our attorney? That'd be a good idea.
this gentleman's going to pay the 5,000. They're going to close. The new owner will have 90 days to get a permit. Day 91, if there's no permit, then it all starts over from day one.
Not the 120,000.
No,
Not the 120,000.
Well, any violation would result in a new code enforcement action.
Exactly.
That's still, okay.
Dylan, how you feeling about that?
Well, it's an interesting framework. I don't see an issue with it. If that's the route you want to choose to go with, I think you can put that in motion. I don't see an issue there.
So I'd like to amend my motion to accept Resolution 2022-009 with the addition that the closing occur on or before March 11th, 2022, giving the new owner 90 days to obtain proper permitting and construction contracts. And if they cannot do that, that it would just kick right back to code enforcement.
Starting over from day one.
Day one.
Second.
Second by, we have an amended by Highslope. We have a second by Thompson. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, and we do have an abstain is Commissioner Gardner. So the motion passes. Moving on. We have old business. Is there anything on your list that you see that you would like to discuss?
Yes, under the old business, item number 7 is something that I brought up. Is it item number 7? No, item number 10. And it's something that is, we're just fresh on our minds. I think that this is something that we have to look at, the outstanding liens, particularly for non-homestead properties, and we need to look at them. Because we have businesses that are in operation, and there's homes that are rental properties that are operating as rental properties, and there's outstanding code liens on them. And I don't know the depth of it, but I think it's important that we address that, and we've talked about it. And I know everybody's been so busy, and it's just been, we haven't focused on it, but I think tonight's conversation just shows us how important it is for us to really get a list of the properties, and for the city manager, the code enforcement, city attorney, look at this and let's bring it to the commission, and we need to discuss it. We need to address these issues. Because these properties that I'm seeing have code liens on them, but they're operating, they're making money, and the city has outstanding liens that we have not been able to recover the cost.
Would you attach a date to that?
Well, on here it says, yes, let's go ahead and do that. I'd like to see us at the April meeting, because I know we have so much other stuff that's going on. So, Randy, I would ask that the April meeting gives y'all time to look at it. And if you can't get it done by the April meeting, then at least start that conversation, because I have brought it up before in the past.
Or a partial list too, anyway, if you want to start with rentals first or with
Commercial properties,
first,
whatever. I don't know I know one from years ago, but I don't know all the details, and so I haven't seen a list. So I think that it's important that we have a list, and this is on code liens. Okay. I know there's water and sewer. I know there's other issues, but I think those are more residential. So I'm just looking at code liens. Although it's not on the old business, I'd like to put it on the old business agenda. Tonight's conversation about Ventura Avenue and our water lines. I think it's critical that we add another item to this list, especially on our cast iron water lines, that we really need a concerted effort to put those into PVC, I guess is what it is, whatever it might be. I'm not sure. I don't understand all the details, but I just know that we have still cast iron pipes, especially along Highway 27. I think it's an issue for us for redevelopment. We need to go out for grant funding, and we've talked about it. I know Danny and I have talked about it years past, but everybody's been so busy. But I like it on this because I think we've got to move into the direction of replacing those cast iron water lines and getting grant funding to get that done, or for the city to, if there's any other funds from the federal government that we can use for upgrading, I think we need to do it. And not only upgrading, but probably relocate, abandoning what we have and going to a new.
Are any of those cast pipes in the alleyways? And
They're all in the alley.
Yeah.
Are we looking at changing that up, getting rid of that, moving it out alleyways and opening it up?
In some locations, very small, with a hotel at the end, we'll be doing that.
Pretty much project driven, though. We're not doing it comprehensively because of the cost would be.
But I'd like for us to look at it, because that, abandoning the cast iron and getting grant funding to put in new water. I think as a community, it needs to be done. I'd like to see redevelopment, but I think it's important. Just like we had issues here on Ventura, and we were able to get the funding through the federal grant process or federal funds. I think we need to look at it. I think we need to. Those are going to stop us from redeveloping those areas if we don't get something.
I will
done.
mention this, two quick points on that. We're working with the county to try to address a significant issue with that very point in the Harlem area that's on our water system. And we've had conversations with the county to try to pursue grant funding through the county. We wanted to do it, but the federal government wouldn't accept it from us since it's outside the city limits. Even though we own the water system, the county would have to be the applicant. So we are pursuing that. As far as in the city, there has been a lot of discussion on the federal level about infrastructure funding for that specific point. So we certainly can look at priority areas.
When these federal dollars come down, I think that's something we need to concentrate on, because I think it's hindering development up and down 27 corridors, that alleyway, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's needed. If we can open that up, remove our utilities, I think it'd be money well spent.
Yeah, and that goes back to the Main Street Corridor Plan, which is actually old business item number, I'm not sure where it's at on there. I know it's ongoing, but I'd like to tie all that together because I think we've got to look at it. And I know there's some funding that they're going to be looking at some of the retail issues on Highway 27, but I still think that we've got to look at that Main Street corridor. For the longest time, that map was there, and it was grant funding that brought us that map. I think we've got to look at it and tie it into redevelopment. That's what I have for old business.
Anyone else? Old business.
The Parks and Rec director position. Where are we with that one?
I continue to get applicants, and I'm going through those now to set up interviews. I just haven't completed it yet.
Okay.
But that is a priority, obviously.
Is it possible for you to give us or for us to set a date certain that we will have someone in that? I'll express again my concern with having community partners and the city, quite frankly, invest what has been invested there and us not be using it right out of the gate at its fullest potential. I think that first and foremost, the children
You're
and
talking
the
about the
kids.
youth center.
Mhm.
Yeah. My goal,
Deserve that.
my intention is we will have it staffed even if the director position remains vacant. But I obviously want a director in place well before the summer's recreation program goes into place.
I heard Danny's gonna be that director too.
He may already inherited some aspects of it in the last few months, but
It's a good job, you know. It's a good job. It's a
an
big
exciting
job,
job.
but
Put a date.
I think the right person would
Put
be
a date
excellent.
in the box for summertime, he said,
yep, I'll put in
May
May.
15th.
I'll put in May.
I like that one.
by the meeting in May.
All right.
Okay, good.
Progress,
Thank you.
I hope.
Anyone else on old business?
I think the police station, the old police station was under old business, and way before Christmas, we talked about getting it surveyed and looked at and all these things.
Accomplished that portion. We had it scheduled to go in our workshop, and I need to just poll you and set a new workshop date since we had to cancel the last one for reasons I won't rehash, but at the end of January.
All right, let's
so-
poll it right now.
Yep.
That's why we're here.
I was
Put it on
thinking
March.
March timeframe. Is that latter part of March? And the
I know
items that were
I think the
listed
week
last
of-
time would
yeah,
just carry
I think,
over to
I
that.
think the week of the 14th is going to be a crazy week for everybody.
Yeah.
So
After
that's
the,
not going to work.
After
So,
the-
and our meeting's on the 21st, the following week, the week of the
Workshop on the
28th.
28th or the 29th. We're doing it on a Monday or a Tuesday.
or the very early in the April week. That's
prefer the
fine.
28th.
Let me
Yeah,
look. Let me see that. 28th.
Right, the fourth Monday.
Yep. That
You need 29?
No, I can change some stuff around.
is that
28th
work
for
for
everybody?
y'all all? all of you?
March? Did
Yeah.
y'all say March?
March.
I would like at least a written, it doesn't have to be well-written, but some kind of written report before then.
No, that'd be the date of the meetings, what I think.
Yeah, that would be the workshop date.
Workshop.
We'd
Yeah,
have
next
everything
week.
ahead of time.
We'd get you out an agenda in advance of that with
So
all
we're
the-
just setting up a workshop.
Correct. With all the items that we were going to be talking, it was in December, wasn't it, that we had?
Yeah, well, no, January is the 28th, I think, but I was out of town. We had to
Okay,
cancel.
right. So March 28th.
Does that date work
I
for
think it does, yes.
Mm-hmm.
nobody conflicts?
It's good for me. Thank you.
And then one other order of old business is our rental properties.
Yeah, that was
Whether we're
listed.
working at a loss or not, the expenses of them and a RFP or a new contract for the golf club.
Yeah, that was listed to be on that last workshop, so I would assume we just carry over the items,
March
particularly
28th.
the
Do we have any
Contract.
numbers on those buildings, whether they're working at, operating at a loss or not?
well, I have the numbers on the country club. We did get those maintenance costs, and we had it in preparation for a workshop, but since we didn't hold it, we will.
Like, is it Sykes Park?
Sykes Park and
Building there.
Senior building.
we,
All of our
CPAC,
rentals.
all
yeah,
of
we've
them
got to
was-
have them before budget time.
Yeah.
So we can just take a stab and double everyone's rent just to make sure.
That's it?
Okay, so that would be also on the March 28th
Nationwide
meeting.
trend.
Okay, all
That's what
right.
everyone else is doing out
Yep.
there.
Nationwide
I think
trend.
it's $200 or $300.
All right. Any questions on the monthly activity reports? Hearing none. Mr. Martin, comments?
I don't have anything to add.
Dylan, do you have anything you want to add?
Nothing here.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson?
No, just still happy with the movement the city's been able to make. You know, it's easy to be a commission in the good times. Few's been here through the bad times. So it's exciting to be a part of it and be able to make positive change for the city. Myself and the mayor and Randy, some staff attended Gary's service today. If you would keep their family in your prayers, they need it. And it's going to be a big vacuum for the city to fill. Big shoes.
Commissioner Pittman?
We talked, or I brought up a while back about having a different commercial zoning instead of just having one commercial zone. We ran into the problem with the parking lot. And, it may not be a bad thing to even look at other residential zoning. And I know, again, this is something it's gonna take time and effort and, studying and reports, but I know that U.S. Sugar is looking to open up more property for housing and even commercial, and I just don't want to get caught behind the eight ball. And we have someone walk in here and we end up with something where we don't want it. So I don't even know who to tell other than you, Mr. Martin, that we need to handle this.
Particularly the commercial you're interested in to
I
start
think that's,
with.
yeah, I think that's probably.
I remember you bringing that up in one of our workshops or somewhere.
Did
Yeah,
we
it-
talk about how the county has different,
Yeah.
like for industrial, I don't know, I would just say ABC, commercial ABC, right?
I mean, it's not a problem like in our industrial area because it's a PUD. We can do what we want, but
I think it came up when we were rezoning a small parcel for commercial, and it's just one big category.
Right.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning it. So having some tiered commercial, I'll call it zoning.
That's a good word.
Okay. I'll get with community development and get that process going.
And then there was a house over on Arcade, not too far off the highway, that cut out our sidewalk and then paved a driveway through the sidewalk. And we mentioned it, and then unfortunate things happened with Sean and things, so it really just never got addressed. And I'm not.
On which street? I'm sorry.
It's on Arcade. It's
Arcade.
on the corner of Arcade and Pasadena.
I remember that, and so it didn't get resolved.
I'm not saying it's unsightly. I'm just saying if this person does it, do we want that all over the city? What is our code on it?
Approved it.
So anyway, I just would like that looked at, and if it needs to be fixed, the owner needs to fix it. If it's okay, then is it up to code and things like that?
Now, I believe the code actually is a reverse. They're required to put it back if they take it out or leave it alone.
Right.
That's
And
my
again, that
recollection.
just-
But we'll get together, Danny and I'll take a look at it.
That just goes to our sidewalk issue that we talked about earlier. We really need to find ways to put more money in all, I know we need money in all the budgets, but they are really, I don't want us to get into a bunch of lawsuits, because we do have some dangerous, maybe not for me or you because we're still young, but there's a lot of elderly people that don't walk as good as we do, and even there's people with wheelchairs that go up and down the sidewalk. And there's just some places that you ain't gonna make it in a wheelchair. So anyway, and I know it's gonna take a couple $100,000 to fix it, but if we could at least put a little more money in that budget and add that to your focus list.
Well, the other thing is, how do we do some kind of community education? You and I both saw somebody go around the barricades because they didn't want to wait and take out the sidewalk and just absolutely crushed it. There has got to be, there's two sides to this. And yes, we're going to maintain them, we're going to keep them up. But when people keep driving over them where they shouldn't be in vehicles that are not supposed to be on the sidewalk, there has to be something on the other side of that we can do to raise that awareness, and how are we going to follow through? I mean, we called in and told them exactly who it was, but there's no teeth. So we need to be cognizant of that side also.
Good points.
All right, anything else?
No, that's it.
Commissioner Heislow.
It's funny you brought up that sidewalk. I was going to thank Danny for getting that all repaired. That chunk of the sidewalk is now back where it belongs. And so that's good. But I agree, Christine, or Mayor Peterson, that we do need some sort of teeth. Somebody needs teeth to be able to hold, people accountable. I've had this conversation about other things as of late. It can't just be the city always giving. Everybody has to take some ownership in what our city looks like, the conditions of our sidewalks when we're driving on top of them. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to break, Anyway, that wasn't my intended comment, so sorry.
Right.
There's been some really great things happening in our community the last couple of weeks. We've had several large fishing tournaments. Raymond and Marianne do an excellent job there. On the tourism front, we're going to be seeing some cycling races that go through Glades and Hendry County. We're excited about that. I think that's going to be an interesting addition of tourism to our community, and an interesting new group of people that will come and visit our town. And having things like nice sidewalks and all these things just add to the quality of life, which is one of my biggest priorities.
To getting people to come.
Yeah, it's one of my biggest priorities is adding to the quality of life. But we've had some really cool stuff between those fishing tournaments, the cycling, the Wish event,
the recurring Bond Street event,
the market. We've had great stuff.
Those are two of my things, Fresh Market and Wish. I think those are two positive things on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, that were good for the community.
Just keeps growing.
Do you have anything else?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Then just want to mention on Thursday night at the Clewiston Museum, Donnie Drake is going to come back and share Clewiston history. And I think it's going to be we're going to learn a lot of stuff, and it's always entertaining. So I think it's at 7 o'clock at the Clewiston Museum, and it's open to the public. It'll be a great night. I know that when Pastor Scorsia left here, he sent me a text. He says, please remind everyone that for the 40 days and for the event on Saturday night is prayer is the focus. That's what that's what their focus is prayer. That's community prayer, and so hopes that we'll keep that in mind as we make decisions on that event. The other thing is that I also a heartfelt sympathy. Condolences to Dylan and his family. I wasn't able to attend the event today, but Gary will most certainly be missed, and so I didn't want tonight to go by without at least offering my sympathies to Dylan. And I applaud you, Dylan, for being here tonight. I'm not sure how you're doing it, but maybe by the grace of God, but thank you for being with us, and we'll keep y'all in prayer. And let me just look.
Thank you, Beck.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I think that's it. I covered the old business. So again, Thursday night, Clewiston Museum.
Dylan, I'm sure you've had a very long day today. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Dylan, thank you.
Thank you, Dylan.